Welcome back to Average Joe's Adventure. I'm your host, just an average Joe. Today is going to be something a little different. You all know I have a camper. I run mud flaps. And on my other truck, they worked wonderfully. Kept the rock chips off the front of the trailer. I do have another tag trailer, an enclosed car trailer, that I like to keep the stones off the front of that as well. The problem is, the way GM designed this on my diesel, the exhaust comes right out and hits the corner of my mud flap and melts the tar out of it. So it becomes a bit of a problem. So what I'm going to do, this is a 5-inch OD, and I've got a 5-inch ID that actually goes to a semi exhaust. So what we'll do is we'll figure out the right spot, slide it up in there, and weld it back on. So let me bring you in a little closer and I'll show you what I mean about this mud. You can see the exhaust points right at that crossbar that holds up the two mud flaps, and it just destroys the passenger side. It melts them right away. So what I'm going to do is we'll just redirect that exhaust and see if that works. Today we'll just be using my tailgate as a workbench. As you can see, we got the 5-inch exhaust tube and then my trusty Sawzall with a brand new blade. So we shouldn't have any problems cutting through this lightweight exhaust. And looking at this exhaust, what they did is, if you look down inside it, there's little air vents that must help with evacuation of the exhaust, which is a neat idea. And I don't know why it just expands that large. All the other earlier diesels didn't have that big of a tip on the end. So we'll just redirect it and hopefully cure our problem with the heat on the mud flaps. So really, to mark this with any accuracy, we need to take and clean it off a little bit. And then I got the paint pen. So I'm thinking if it is about that much of length, we should be pretty good. And I want to still keep those air inlets to help it exhaust it a little easier. So I'm not messing with GM's design. And that'll slide up in, and then we can rotate it, clock it. Now the fun part, getting the Sawzall in there and get a straight cut. Okay. I think. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some tape, run it around. So I've got a mark right where I need to cut it. But if I run the tape around, it'll give me a nice straight cut that I'm looking for. That way I don't go all wonky on me. And it sure will be nice. I'm hoping to have my hoist installed. Got a 2-post hoist. Hope to get that installed this summer sometime here in the barn. So, cover your ears, this is going to be loud. Pretty straight. Not perfectly straight, but good enough for what we're doing. Now we'll have to get this tape off and then get the grinder out and clean up a little bit of these edges, and then where the little slits are in the pipe that fits over it. And I lost that. Oh, here it is. So if you come in here, yeah, probably have to angle it down just a little bit to get away from the painted bumper, but definitely have to clean up the edges. Got a little bit of a lip on it. Let me go grab my grinder and I'll be right back. I've got my trusty grinder and we'll just clean this up. Oh yeah, definitely when I was cutting this and grinding, I did have my safety glasses on. The squint. Always forget those things. There should be a pair of safety glasses right by where you hang up your grinder and where you have your Sawzall, but I don't. That's a good idea. I may have to do that. Thanks. Well, I tell you, it needs a little bit of massage. All right. Got to go get the pipe stretcher. Oh, here it is. Right on the floor. A Stretcher 2000. So if you look real close, it's kind of got like where it was dropped or something. So we should be able to maneuver it enough to or manipulate, stretch it with a Stretcher 2000 enough to get it on. We'll give that a try. Well, let's do a test fit, see if it'll work after using the stretcher. Oh yeah, it goes on really nice. You know, that might just be the angle that we're looking for. Takes and puts it down and out. It's far enough away from my painted bumper. Well, I think that's going to work. Now I just got to get the welder over here and put a couple tacks around where those splits are and the pipe. It went on really, really snug. The welder. First the welder cord. This is a real nice Miller welder I got, gosh, a long time ago. And it's just a little 110 welder. But for the stuff that I do around here, I can either, it'll work good enough, or I'll tack it together and then take it to my son's shop, where he is a very good welder and he's got the proper equipment to really weld something good and tight and make it last. That doesn't sound good. There we go. Little cooling fan had a hard time starting up. It is cold in the barn here, but hopefully soon enough we'll get some heat back or down in here. But it's not too bad today. Well, that's unfortunate. Blew a breaker. Got too much stuff running off of a very limited amount of plugs here in the barn. I don't want to finish putting electrical in this part of the barn until I get the siding up, which I got to get the insulation up first, and then the metal siding that I have to cover it up. Then I can run conduit and electrical. So we'll go turn the breaker on, turn a couple more things off, and hopefully we won't pop a breaker and we can get this welded up. All right. Test number 2. You can definitely tell I'm not a very good welder, but it gets the job done. I got to come in from the other side, I think. I'll get one more tack up here. Now it's time to make it beautiful. So I got to get the powder coating machine out, and we'll powder coat this black so it looks really good. And when I mean powder coat, I mean little rattle can. Oh yeah, looking better already. This is a flat new powder coat going on. Make brand new factory. Missed a spot. Got to get the inside so when it burns off the exhaust, it burns off that paint. Or I mean the powder coat, sorry. We'll let that dry off and probably put another coat on it here in a couple minutes. While that powder coat's baking, I mean drying-ish, in order for us to get a second coat on it. You know, GM has marvelous, wonderful, smart engineers, but I don't think they ever meant for somebody to put mud flaps on the back end of one of these trucks. So I was inspired by, kind of funny, this guy had an exhaust tip on his Ford truck that almost was scraping the ground. And I thought, you know what? I could cut that off, get the same size tube, and just get a 45 and redirect that hot exhaust. It's amazing how hot the exhaust is, especially when it does a def burn coming out of the tailpipe. It's just unbelievable. And going 70, 75 miles out down the road, and it just cooked those plastic mud flaps. So that was the second mud flap that I ruined. The first ones were rubber, and I thought, well, you know, the rubber is a little softer. It's probably got a lesser melting temperature, but the hard plastic mud flap the first 100 miles, I think it was, we left here and we got to our first fuel stop, which, you know, was only 45 miles away. It's a fuel station I like to use when we're heading south, but it was already melting like nobody's business. So hopefully that'll fix it and it'll keep the rocks off my fifth wheel. I really appreciate you watching. This is going to take a little while to dry because it's pretty cold in the barn here. So I won't bore you with sitting around watching paint dry. But I really appreciate you watching. I hope this was helpful. And I will bring you back later with an update. All right. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.